All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I know it's been a hot minute since we had an episode of The Spawn, and I know we were talking about getting it back rolling for a while, but unfortunately, things just got a little hot and heavy towards the end of last season, and um, I would have had too much to say for Stage 5. I was, uh, yeah, just a lot going. But of course, I'm joined by my partner in crime, Verdict, and we're gonna try to keep it a bit short for you guys today. Just in it's the first episode. There's not a ton going on for either of the regions. We had qualifiers, so we'll talk a little bit about that. And then one of the big things coming up is going to be the patch notes and kind of this season's rule set. So, Verdict, how's it going, man?
Man, us, bro. We are hanging in there. It's been an eventful Friday afternoon, evening for some of us, and we just got done raging on Warzone. So you already know how that is.
Yeah, that was not going great for us for sure. But sometimes that is just the way Warzone goes. I do need to send our noties out, but
Yo, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, I do not like how zoomed in my face is.
look, I don't like it either. That's why we're getting the new
Uh,
graphic made where it's gonna be it's gonna be landscape instead of portrait. I've already sent it off to B, so hopefully we'll get that. I like the way it looks. I just don't like the way it functions because we got to be zoomed in to like fill up the whole square. You know what I mean? But
I mean, yeah.
we got some things in the mix though. We got some things in the mix though. We're gonna get some updates for you guys. And I think one of the biggest things to start out with today is probably just run through our qualifier teams that made it for Europe and North America.
Yeah, we had an eventful E1. I know Omni came out on top, but we saw, even off the rip, how difficult it can be coming out of qualifiers. Even a team as stacked as that Omniscient roster. There's going to be struggles off the rip. They're not, a team that has been playing for as long as some of these others have, or even have the experience that some of the others have. On the flip side of things, you got NA where you've got a team who shows a lot of promise. That's Devious, and they just really haven't delivered to their expectations in the past couple seasons. So I'm looking for them to step up and do a little something different. Hopefully they'll get their act together and clean up their name situation. But certainly going to be checking both of those two teams out as we're going to be casting a little exhibition matchup with them tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we do have a big exhibition match coming through with them. I believe that's going to be at 6:30 or so Eastern tomorrow. Um, I think it'll be interesting, and you and I have obviously both been on the Omni train, right? Like we've been saying that we think Omni probably comes through and slaps Devious, but I gotta say Omni didn't have as great of a performance coming out of qualifiers into the main season. As I think we expected them to, and I thought that was a really good level of competition to see them up against. And um, granted, the search and destroy did develop a little bit more than I think it looked at the start. Obviously, it looked like Omni was just going to get clapped. There were some definitely decent rounds towards the middle. It extended things out a little bit, but the hard point just was not close. And I don't necessarily want to say that I'm saying I think DVS might actually win, but I'm definitely saying there is probably, at least to a degree, a possibility there.
Okay. I mean, that's a fair assessment. I mean, you get those in a lobby. You never know what kind of ping situation is going to come through. You never know what kind of distractions other players are. They're not used to playing official events on Saturdays with us, at least. So I don't know what's going to happen. I know Tuesdays and Thursdays are usually when they're, in the mix and like top creative juices flowing. So I mean, it's an exhibition game. It's one we're going to be having for fun. It's definitely something I'm going to be looking forward to, and I have been for the past 2 weeks. Certainly going to be, a change of pace for our
A little too
casting,
dark.
right?
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. And I was trying to adjust my lighting a little bit, but that's too dark if I turn that off. Um, I think one of the big things for Devious, in my opinion, is that I don't necessarily think they bring like the same level of gun skill that a lot of the top teams do. Um, and that's pretty apparent when you see them face off against some of those top teams, or at least it has been in the past. We haven't seen really enough of that yet this season. Um, but their teamwork Like the fact that this is a team that is actually reasonably stuck together. A lot of these players do play together pretty regularly. Um, and have for many seasons now. I think they have at least a degree of synergy that keeps them kind of in the loop and continues to make them be a threat. So that's that's definitely one thing to look out for. I mean, specifically in their matchup against Rain in the qualifiers. Um, the hard point, they were down 36 kills in the hard point, which the hard points are a little bit longer now. Um, but any other matchup where we see top tier competitors, the likes of your like a Goofy Goovers versus Seminole, or a Yomama versus Seminole, or a Yomama versus Cygnus, having almost a 40 kill lead is going to have a lot to tell in the scoreboard at the end, right? As far as how close the match was. And even down 36 kills, Devious were able to come through and take that hard point. Um, Ultimately, they did fall to the losers bracket of the qualifiers, but they were able to climb back up, come through into the finals, and ended up 3-0ing Rain in the end.
Yeah, but by that time of the night, bro, anything could have happened.
Yeah,
Let's be real. It
that's
was so
true.
late. I heard mangoes in chat. And at that point, I think they were just so over it. I'm gonna be honest with you, it was kind of scuffed because we didn't have a semifinals like that or finals like that on the EU side of things. It was winners, losers, which was a best of three. We did a best of five, and and it got a little out of hand, a little late, later than expected. But you get to a point in the night when you're just not having it, and you lose one of your top players. Or I'm not saying Ochilla, aka Asta, aka I'm retired, was a difference maker in that matchup,
10 times
but
retired.
yeah, 10 times, Mr. 10 times retired, Asta himself. One of my favorite players. I love Asta, bro. He's cracked. He's funny. He's a cool character. Um, you take that out of the mix and a complete team synergy just it takes a minute for you to adjust to accommodating to someone who has a knowledge of the game such as Asa does. Like I said, he's retired 10 times, so he's been around. Obviously, he's seen things. He's been a part of things that a lot of these kids haven't. And that kind of experience does come into handy when you're going into the later of portion of the night. So um yeah, yeah, yay and nay. Does Devious deserve the qualifiers win? Absolutely. Does it mean
Hmm.
anything? Hell no. Why are they being compared from the first place, Octane? That's a great question. I'll tell you why. Because they're both Mobile Mayhem qualifier winners, so they finished at the top of the bracket. They finished. They're the best of the best in the qualifiers. We keep track of teams like this because we're always going to have Seminole. We're always going to have Zygnuses. We're always going to have Yo Mamas. We're always going to have Animuses on the EU side of things. We're always going to have those teams. But who's going to be the team that comes through and just shakes things up?
Well,
That is the point that I guess I would be trying to make.
I think a fair point as well is, and I know some people are going to disagree with this because Tribe won stage 5. Um, I think across the board that EU has a bit stronger of a competitive scene. Obviously, you can look at
That's a
it
fair.
and
That's a
and
fair
you can
assessment.
say Tribe won the whole thing. Tribe's the best. One team coming through and winning worlds is or stage 5, especially in the circumstances that were present. Now, I don't necessarily think, I'm saying, if we were on land, there's a different outcome. That's not at all what I'm saying.
No, definitely not.
I just think stage 5 left a lot to be desired for upcoming events because let's face it, everything we've heard from the players across the board, everything we watched was a little bit on the weak side for a world championship event, right? And if you look across the board at the teams that Europe is able to produce versus the teams that NA is able to produce, you have way more teams in Europe that are able to compete for a top position. As opposed to you look at North America, and I think right now we're really looking at a top 3, which in my opinion is going to be the likes of your Seminole, Goofy Goobers, and Yo Mama.
And then you got to add explicit into the mix too. I mean,
So yeah, I agree.
yeah,
I'm kind of just for and again, this is just NA. I know we have Cygnus and I know we have 11T in the mix too. Um, I'm not including them in this count because I think they're absolutely competitors too, and I think having them not only on a viewership standpoint but also on a competitive standpoint is one of the things that saves North America and makes it look a little bit better. Because if you take 11T and Cygnus out of the mix, there's just no way at all to compare the North American Mobile Mayhem and the European one because Europe just has way more high octane teams that it brings to the mix. Um, but you're absolutely right. I think Explicit is a team that has a lot of potential as well. The likes of solo veterans Snipes, Ingenic, Nero, Lucifer, and Marcia. Um, so I'm pretty excited.
certainly going to be a great season. I think we've had our fun with roster mania. Things are starting to settle down a little bit. We all know that everything is not set in stone right now. Hell, we've got teams with names such as Yo Mama, and some of the. I don't think we have any teams. I know we got Nova represented in EU, but I don't know what the circumstances are. Contract. If we're talking about contracts, I don't
I
know.
I doubt at this stage it's contracted like
Yeah,
they're.
but I mean, if you're not going to be contracted, why are you competing under an org's name?
It's probably already stuff in the works, just not.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Pro-
always find that interesting. Like,
it's probably more a continuation of the Nova players are keeping their contract and have picked up other teams for their roster. And I could be completely wrong here, but I think that's probably it. The likes of you've got Saturns and Yaya um, continuing on through, and then obviously we had the pickup of
Neil's
Neil,
still
Creed,
there.
Inferno, or well, yeah, Neil's still there. Um, well, I guess Neil was after Stage 5, right?
No, Neil was definitely before Stage 5. He was right
After, yeah,
after
okay, yep, yep,
Masters. Yeah.
yeah, you're right, you're right. So yeah, you've got a chunk of the Nova roster still going, and Nova is a team that sticks around in a scene. I've actually been at a couple different gaming scenes, mobile gaming scenes that Nova has been a part of, and while I've certainly heard some things that are up and down about them, they are consistent. They do stick around, um, and I have absolutely no doubts that Nova's not going to like pull out of the CODM scene.
Oh,
Um,
I wasn't questioning that at all.
right.
I mean, if you don't have a confirmed roster, I mean, I noticed a lot of the teams in NA were kind of funny with the names. I was expecting EU to be a little more creative on that front, and obviously I get let down. They want to keep it professional. I'm cool with that too.
I don't know.
We had
Fortnuts
one. We had
420 is
yeah,
pretty.
yeah. I'm not saying Fort Nuts. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. That was one of those names that I heard, and I was like, I'm not saying Fort Nuts. We'll call them FN 420. I don't care about the 420. They originally registered as FN 42069. I was like, I'm okay with the 42069, but I'm not saying Fort Nuts.
Yeah,
I
the
got
rest
I
of
got
the
mixed priorities there,
yeah,
right?
the rest of the teams in EU have largely kept it pretty straightforward though. Um, as far as our teams that made it through qualifiers for EU, um, that was what Aphelion,
Illuminati,
Illuminati,
Elysium,
Elysium.
yeah,
What's the last one?
Omni, and Aphelion.
Omni. Yeah, yeah. So those are the four teams that we had fight through qualifiers. The Clash roster that I actually had a lot of high hopes for has disbanded, which a lot of EU already knows about, but maybe NA didn't. Um, and we actually do see their players kind of, at least a couple of them, scattered around through some of these other teams. So I definitely have high hopes for Europe, but I think, again, we were kind of talking about NA really has like a defined top three or four. Um, you look at the likes of Europe, and it's like, okay, Fortnuts 420, Veer, Shift, Sem, Slayer, Donlion, Balance. That's a solid team. 117 Not Found. Look, I knew this was a good team, but I didn't necessarily expect them to crush Omni the way they did. That's going to be Dark Wizard Tilt, Karma, Jazz, Cosmos, and Lucky. We already talked a little bit about Nova, Yaya, Saturn, Spy, Inferno, Creed, Neil. All three of those are teams that can absolutely compete at the top. You start looking at the likes of your Anarchy with Brixta, Nev, Marky, Onur, Faints, Rondo, and Patron. I think that's a team that has a lot of potential, even if they're not all the way at the tippy top. You have Omni, who again struggled a bit, but Jim, Tidadai, Denisio, Gathelia, Capo is definitely a team with potential. There is one team that I think really competes with Nova this season, however, and that's going to be Animus. And dude, that team is cracked. Verdict.
Yeah, that is probably going to be the team that I watch. They're definitely going to be a top 3 team regardless of what happens. I think one of their struggles is going to be finding that 5th player or 6th player to sub in. And I mean, they look pretty content to stick with what they have, but we all know that, things happen.
Hmm.
Life happens, and you're going to come to a point where you're going to have to produce somebody, or you're going to have to 4v5. I mean, I'm not saying I don't have faith that they can't 4v5, but let's be real, bro. It's not one of those scenarios where, again, it's going to favor you in the long run. They need to find a 6th player, and I know Drari came in chat and said that they were working on something, just making sure everything fits. I respect the hell out of that. I think that a lot of these teams struggle with finding, subs that are, adequate enough to fit in the mix, not just someone who's cracked overall and throw them in and expect them to fit in. I think they're looking for a long-term solution, and I think they should be as patient as just let that process develop. I don't think they need to rush it. I think they need to continue their search. I think playing with 5 is risky, but this is Mobile Mayhem. This isn't stage 5, that's coming up. So I think if based off of the roster that they presented, a majority of them were stamina, and that roster, if you think about it, never really made any roster changes. So do it right the first time, and you're not, having to try and fix things on the back end.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things for me with Animus, and I know I mentioned this the other day when we were actually doing the EU broadcast and we got our listen in, um, goes right back to that Tim the Tatman speech, right? Where it's
Right.
someone's got to be that anchor. And I look at the personalities that we have for Animus, the likes of Durari, Grizz, Narcs, Marvel, Shark. Um, I do have some concerns that when they do go head to head against matchups like 117 Not Found, and Nova, and FN 420, I feel like if they get into a pinch there, I don't really know who's going to kind of be that fallback player. You know what I mean? I feel like they have a lot of really positively charged energy that comes from that group of players specifically. And when we did our listen in, I mean, let's face it, they were kind of just bullying their competition out of the scene that day, right? So that didn't give us a good perspective on um, what to expect from them when they are struggling. So I'm
Well,
hoping
I
we
mean, I'm gonna go ahead and stop you. They got to have that fall guy once that time comes.
right. Well, that's what
Based
I'm
off
saying.
what
That's
I'm
what I'm
seeing,
looking
bro,
out for.
I don't see that time coming, man. These guys, they are top heavy, and it doesn't get any, easier towards the bottom, bro. I mean, they're solid ground up. Like some of the best players in EU, if not the best. You've got 2 of the best snipers, Marvel and Narcs. And then you got, some of the best fraggers in the game with Grizz. I don't know, bro. I don't think that time is gonna come. I don't think that, if there is a little bit of inner turmoil, I don't think it's gonna result in anybody being negative other than the fact that, just take your L's and move on. I just can't see that team getting down on each other.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hope not. And again, that's going to be one of the big things I know in the coming weeks, especially since I'm going to get to do EU with you this season since Imperium's busy. Um, I definitely want to make sure when we get into some of those tougher matchups, and this isn't just for Animus. This is also for the likes of Nova and 117. Those are teams that they're powerhouse stacked teams, and I really want to jump in and just see how they can handle that mental game when things aren't necessarily going as smooth as they were on the first day of the season. Because that's another big thing is, yeah, we went through roster mania and we see all these different teams and players scattered all over the place. But that's not a once a year thing. I mean, look how many teams disband after like a Masters, or players switch after a Masters going into a stage 3, stage 4, etc. Um, there's definitely opportunities where, if things aren't working out when those times come, we probably will see a couple players mix things up. It's not obviously as big as the end of the year shift that you get, but it's definitely something that's still there. Um, all right, so we talked on EU a little bit. Our North American teams, which again, we actually at least had some exciting matches for the North American qualifiers. I think Devious and Rain were like really good gatekeepers for what teams should expect coming into Mobile Mayhem. They're not the toughest teams in the league, but they're definitely teams that bring their own flavor. So those are two of our teams that made it through the qualifiers. And then the other two being Shreddit and who was it? Midnight Gaming?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Midnight Gaming and Shredded, they're definitely going to be one of those teams that you're going to have to keep your eye out on. I know that um, Shredded have a lot of faith and a lot of hope. They showed a lot of promise in qualifiers, but I'm gonna be honest. At the end of the day, we saw how badly Devious got beat by Cygnus. I know Cygnus is a team that is a returning Mobile Mayhem champion, but at the end of the day, if you stack that team and Seminole up, I don't know, bro. They've definitely got their work cut out for them. This is going to be a reality check for them. So I'm not saying they can't do it, but teams like this have been in scenarios like this, and most of the time they don't make it all the way through the season.
I gotta say, one thing is I expect big things from DVS. They're a team that again has stuck around and has gotten better over time, and I'm really hoping they get to the point where they can go up against the likes of an 11T or a Yo Mama or an Explicit, and maybe snag a game. And that'll be one of the kind of exciting things closer to the end of the season where we may be looking at potentially those 5 points where if Devious snagged them from somebody, that could be the difference maker on a placement, right? It could be, let's say Devious come in and they do snag a win from Explicit in the middle of the season, and then Explicit comes through and is 5 points short or very very close to a second place, and they just don't quite get it. And another team that I really want to see do well is Rain. You've got the return of Moralto, as you were mentioning, Asta, Shorty, Mangoes, Yawn, Losty, and Nerdy. And I hope they're able to pull this roster together and just have 5 for the season, because that's been one of the biggest struggles for a lot of the rosters we see Moralto bring together. And I don't know. I'm hoping this season is different.
Yeah, I'm hoping it too. I know things are going to get tough, especially for the bottom end of the qualifier teams for NA. I could say the same thing about EU. Granted, the competition level is pretty narrow in EU. It's a high drop off after you get it. You saw how Omni performed. We talked about that already. It is definitely one of those ones that could get to you long term, but I'm expecting this to be a great season. I'm expecting NA to produce some great talent, some great games, and I won't be surprised if some of those qualifier teams from NA are able to snag a few games. And the same for you. So definitely going to be an interesting season. There's no debate about that. I know you and I will be going to be doing NA on Thursday, so I'll be able to get my dose of NA then, and I'll try and keep up with you and Bobby on Tuesdays. I know you and I will be doing Monday or Tuesdays and Thursdays. Good night. It's late for verdict. I was not prepared for this, and sure enough, it's showing. But enough about the qualified teams. What are we looking forward to? Is this a segment that we're going to go off into? Like, some of the regular teams, some of the teams that were invited for NA.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely can roll through a couple of those again. Obviously, there's a handful of NA teams that we know we need to be on the lookout for. One of them is going to be Yo Mama with the likes of Space, Wally, Solar, Deannabella, aka Teabag, Raballo, Forsaken is back, and Vibin. I think that's a team with a lot of potential, and they have a really solid coaching staff as well. Big shout out to Band coming through with the raid, much appreciated.
Goofy
Hope your stream
Goobers.
was pretty good. Goofy Goobers is another really strong one, and they have particularly a lot of sniper talent on their team, right? The likes of Washi, Jesus, and Blur. Like, there's times where we've seen teams where it's like, okay, they don't have a sniper showing up for today, right? Um, that's not going to be the case with the Goofy Goobers at all.
No, it's definitely going to be an interesting one. I know that squad is probably neck and neck with. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm looking at notification. Neck and neck with some of the top tier teams in NA. Definitely up there with Seminole. I think that Seminole team is so stacked, and I think without Tectonic, I know we were talking about them on Sunday, winning everything on that tournament we casted in, but without Tectonic, I think they're a little more beatable. Um, that Goofer Goober squad, though, is possibly one of the most diverse and well-rounded teams, though. So I'm definitely not going to be discounting them or Cygnus even as they picked up Zai. So definitely going to be an interesting season.
Yeah, and I definitely we'll get to it on. I did want to point out. Obviously, you were mentioning that Cygnus picked up Zai, and that's going to be a big issue for 11T this season. So we'll talk about that a
I
little
mean,
bit.
yeah, issue. That's you saw the search and destroy game on Thursday, right?
Considering 11T was one
Yeah.
of those teams that in previous seasons we were like, this is one of the strongest search teams you can go up against. Um, yeah, it looked pretty rough on Thursday. Um, as far as Goofy Goobers go, I think we have a solid top four, like just raw NA teams. You can obviously throw Cygnus in the mix there, and maybe 11T if they can tighten things up a little bit. But I think Yo Mama, Seminole, Goofy Goobers, and Explicit are all close enough. And we can look at it and say, well, Seminole and Goofy Goobers are probably the number one, number two. Um, I think the teams are close enough that on any given day, Yo Mama can show up and take games off of Seminole or even beat Seminole. They could take games off of Goofy Goobers or even beat Goofy Goobers. Same thing with Explicit. I think that they're a team that's well enough rounded that if they come and they're having an on day, they could really punish a lot of the mistakes that the Goofy Goobers or Seminole make. And then you throw Cygnus in the mix, who were looking really strong last season up until stage five, and just still don't know what happened in stage five, but stage five was obviously not good to Cygnus. Um, Dude, they came into day one and just took no prisoners yesterday. They were up against Devious, and that was uh, that was a strong statement that Cygnus had out of the gate.
Yeah, that was definitely a strong statement. I think a lot of potential in NA. I'm reading chat. I'm reading where Yaya's putting in there, and he said there's only two good NA teams and two good LATAM teams. I beg to differ, on that particular segment. There are clearly four top NA teams that can compete. I mean, Explicit able to take it to a game three against 11. I know they're down bad in Search and Destroy, but that don't mean anything. I think that team shows a lot of promise. I think it shows a lot of potential going into the latter half of the season. Maybe they pick up someone who's a little stronger on the respawns to start things off. But they struggled a lot in the domination, even though they won it. That was a game that they were getting slapped, around in the first half, and were able to bounce back and turn it around in the second half. So I think they are missing one big respawn carry, like one person who could top brag. You throw in someone who could put up numbers in a hard point to start things off. You've got a solid team.
I think that is a fair clarification from Yaya. By good, he means consistent and will stay consistent throughout the year. That is at least a fair addition to the statement that I maybe can agree with a little bit. I like, for example, Seminole is a group of players that already played together when they were on different teams before. Like if you ever popped into a Vague or a Bolu stream, it was Vague, Bolu, Marshy, Childs, Jez, sometimes Tech, who again has been pulled from the roster for this season. He's taken a little bit of a break. But I mean that's a group that they're friends through and through and stick together, and that roster probably will maintain. Some of the other ones, again, you get to those situations where okay, you have a bad Masters run. Okay, now you lost three of your players; they went elsewhere. That's I think more of a possibility for Yo Mama, Goofy Goobers, and Explicit than it is for Seminole. So that is definitely definitely something to consider, is just kind of the glue that holds Seminole together compared to some of the other teams. Um, I think I'm good on coverage of the teams for NANEU. If you want to just kind of blow through we can go blow through kind of this season's rule set and maybe some of the upcoming patch notes.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's run through. I know that everyone's excited about the Kilo and the PPSH, the coming into the COD Mobile scene, and I am one of those people. I think the game needed another SMG that not necessarily will be broken when it's released, but certainly will shake things up for the meta. I know right now we're at a top heavy Type 25 meta. Like you literally can't go into a game competitively and not see four Type 25s, or at least four Type 25s, maybe an M13, maybe a sniper, depending on what people are feeling when they first start, a respawn game. But I think the diversity will be a little better once this new update releases. I know they were supposed to release it today. I know it's getting pushed back. From what I've heard, it's going to be pushed back. Maybe somebody in chat can confirm, but based off of what we heard today, it was postponed. So certainly excited about seeing that gun being thrown in there because it is such a strong Cold War and even a Vanguard weapon. So
Yeah, I mean, the PPSH is one of those guns that in basically every COD that it's ever been in has been strong. So I have absolutely no doubt that coming on into COD Mobile, that'll be a big one. Um, I do think the Kilo will be an interesting one, and I think the most interesting thing about the Kilo is not because I um, directly look at the Kilo and I'm like, this gun is going to outclass the M13. This gun's going to outclass the Type 25. That's not necessarily the case, but when we look at our major rule changes that we had, and I will stick by through and through that I think Space, like single-handedly, is the reason that we went to a more CDL style rule set. Because again, for how many months did we have a Holger meta where the Holger was just everything, right? Your LMG that could be played all across the board. We never even had gentleman agreements on that to not use the Holger, right? Like people just um, everybody was comfortable with it, and you could use it in all different play styles, and it was available for everyone. Now you look at the SKS, which again is what I think Space really inspired this whole change. Was it a strong gun? Yes. I see a lot of people complain about the two tap potential. I don't think that's the issue with the SKS. I think that the one shot headshot at most ranges was an issue. I think it should have had maybe a little bit lower of a critical multiplier, um, and maybe a little bit more damage fall off. Um, and it would have been a little bit more consistent then. Sure, if you're close enough, you can get a one shot headshot, but you get out past 30 meters, you know, maybe not a one tap there, but that kind of sparked this whole change where we went into no marksman rifles, no shotguns, no LMGs, and that's all fine and dandy. But now we have this new gun coming into the scene, the Kilo, which comes sporting a 100-round magazine, which basically turns it into a LMG, even though it's classified as an AR. So I think if you're one of those teams that voted, hey, we want to take LMGs out of the scene and whatnot, I think you should all agree with me here that probably banning a attachment that turns a AR into an LMG is probably a good idea as well.
No, I think so too. I think it should be, well, because don't get me wrong, if the Kilo's a great weapon, and it's balanced, it's something that's viable at a competitive scene. I don't think it needs to be banned completely, but that attachment, just like when we were talking about the crossbow has certain attachments. It has what, the thermite in the gas
Hmm.
projectile. So I think just like that, we could ban that particular attachment. I think that would be something that could balance the gun out. Granted, I don't think it's coming out to be super cracked. I think Bobby was using it earlier today in Battle Royale. I don't know how it's going to translate in MP. I wasn't sticking around to check it out, but I certainly think the gun could be one of those weapons if it's deemed to be meta at some point, which it's bound to be. It's always Activision trying to get those new guns in there, trying to get them into the rotation. I think it'd be a great addition to the scene. I just don't believe that the 100-round mag is something that we would have to deal with or should have to deal with.
Right, right. Um, as far as kind of the PPSH coming up, I don't necessarily know if it's going to like fully shift us to an SMG meta for multiplayer, but it is very, very strong. The time to kill in those close quarter engagements is um, it's like Fennec territory kill time with a 64 or 65 round mag. Um,
65 round mag.
yes, yeah. So that's a pretty crazy SMG right out of the gate, but I think one that people probably sleep on early on will be the Bison update. Um, I don't think the Bison with the patch notes I've seen is broken. I don't think it's like the all-out go-to gun. But I think it definitely probably in the competitive scene, we'll see a couple players rock that Bison and really be able to um, take advantage of that extra 15% damage chest multiplier, an extra 10% headshot damage ratio, and the base damage up from 26 to 28. Um, and I think it's a very, very viable mobile mid-range weapon. Again, I don't think it's broken. I don't think it's going to be like the run rampant MP scene, but I definitely think we'll see a couple players start pulling that out. We did have a buff to the QXR. I don't know if
Mm,
it's great.
no, it's still going to be a 5 shot
Right.
regardless. So I mean, I don't think it's going to be making its way back in. So I think we're good on that front. I don't think it's going to be anything. The PB19 might be. It's not that big of a difference unless you get those headshot, which again, still not going to be anything that's going to make it a 3 tap. So um, yeah, I think that it's going to make the PP19 Bison a little more doable and is going to make for some interesting plays. But I still feel like we're going to see a lot of types. I think we're going to see a lot more
Yeah.
M13s too. Which I know we were talking about some of the enhancements did. It's not drastic either. It's more so along the lines of just so much. What is the stat? What does the note say? It says adjusted the acceleration of the M13 to match the weapon's running speed. What does that even mean?
Um, I think that was like more of an optimization update
Okay,
than an actual like feature change.
there we go.
Um, I think it's designed to make it a little less clunky, but um, another gun that we had changed, which I just don't think the change like even matters, is the DRH. The initial range is increased from 7 to 9 meters. And then the second range is from 13 to 15. A very, very minor reload speed increase as well, but just no actual damage changes, no recoil control changes or anything like that. I just think it's still too inconsistent of a weapon to see it play any of those AR positions. So I think you're absolutely right. I think we maybe see a little bit of M13. There's a couple players that we've seen pull it out. I know Solo is one we were talking about the other day. But I think largely because we have no nerf to the Type 25, probably still largely going to be looking at the Type 25, probably some PPSH play. Again, maybe some Bison for some of those more all-rounder kind of playstyle players that want that mobility of an SMG, but also favor a little bit of that um, deeper damage range potential. Because again, for close range, I think the PPSH is just gonna come through and just tear people, and then the type will be more of that mid range viability. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. Um, but yeah, I definitely think if you're a competitive player and you wanted LMGs out, I don't think you can vote for allowing the 100 round mag kilo. I think was the biggest thing on the patch notes for me.
I think I'm right there with you. I think that's one of the things that we were talking about. How is it going to come into play for Mobile Mayhem this season? We just had an overhaul and the rules change. Everyone's seeming. I'm loving the new rule updates. I'm digging the 250 hardpoint. I'm digging the 200 domination. I'm loving the changes in the weapons, even though we haven't made a complete commitment to jump into the deep end. For that CDL rule style. Even though that's what the players were claiming that they wanted to do, we still have quick fix in the mix. We still have a potential of a kilo that has a 100 round magazine, which again, once it releases, we'll have a little bit more to say on it as far as if it's even going to be a viable option. So I think we're heading in the right direction. I think Mobile Mayhem does it best when it comes to these rule sets, especially since they're allowing the players to put the power into their own hands. So they're the ones who are playing. They're the ones who ultimately need to decide, and I'm glad they were all able to come together and put something up and feel a little more collective, in putting their input into the rule set change. I'm just glad we're not seeing Holgers anymore. I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah, me too. Especially as long as we saw Holgers, I'm hoping that this year COD does a little bit better on the balancing changes. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and throw it out there that based on this season one balance patch, I'm not making it much further than hopes. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to see people sitting back on a head glitch, just spraying through walls. That's that's mainly what I am not super interested in seeing. And obviously you can get a little bit into the fact that well, if the 100 round kilo mag is banned, then why can't you use the Holger with the submachine gun rounds, or why can't you um, or why can you use the single shot AMAX rounds? I don't remember what the exact name of the ammo attachment is for the AMAX, but you guys know what I'm talking about, the semi-auto fire. Um, so
It's the M67 mag.
M67, that's right. Okay, thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, I mean, so those are all kind of things still in to be discussed. I'm not anybody that makes the rules. I'm just kind of putting my 2 cents out there. Um, I don't know. I'm unsure. I also am not entirely sure why. A lot of people were like, hey, we want LMGs, shotguns, and marksman rifles out because we want to be more like the CDL, and then didn't vote for a quick fix ban. Like that's kind of just a trash reason, if you want me to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
I don't know. Yeah. Um I'm assuming Yaya is not a huge fan of the rule change. He's made it very clear in chat. Um, I think that going back to the basics is a great way to start the year off. I think it gives us a fresh, shot at evening the playing field. You know, there's no excuses on to why a player isn't doing well with a certain gun. Obviously, we're always going to be adapting to a meta. Um, that's an issue that some players handle better than the others. So, champs rule set were great, but I mean, at the end of the day, we don't have champs to look forward to for another year or 6 months, really, right?
At least, yeah. Before we really start getting into the depths of it, probably right about there. So we'll have to see on that. I do think one of my favorite changes, while we kind of start winding down here, is the operator changes. So I actually like that we're not banning operators anymore, and maybe other people are obviously going to have different opinions. Especially because I know a lot of people don't like to have to go up against the Annihilator and the Sparrow, but I think it definitely adds at least a bit of versatility to what we see, um, and really um, brings it into a selection because everybody wants to use the Annihilator because it's straightforward, right? But you have a couple players that are specifically good with it. Tech was one of them. Obviously, he's not going to be playing, so that's not going to be hugely relevant. But with our allowed operators being the Purifier, the War Machine, the Death Machine, the Sparrow, Tempest, Gravity Spikes, Annihilator, Equalizers, and Gravity Vortex, and only one unique operator per team, I think does expand a bit and brings a little bit more excitement than just saying, okay, the Annihilators banned, the Sparrows banned, uh, 10 of us are going to run a Death Machine. And we have started to see more people throw the Gravity Vortex into the mix before this rule change, which was nice in the first place. But we still saw a lot of Death Machine. We didn't really get to see a lot of use out of the Grav Spikes or the Tempest. You had a couple players that brought the Tempest to the table. I know Tatio was one. Marshy was one as well. It's a great tool for shutting down a Goliath if your opponents get one. But now that you're forced to broaden your horizons a little bit, I think that makes for a little bit more exciting gameplay. And I think it also gives us an opportunity to say, man, this player is specifically really good with the Equalizer, or this player is specifically really good with the Sparrow and stands out from your normal Sparrow user. So I'm pretty excited about this season so far.
I definitely think it was a much needed change since champs. Obviously, we're going back to a little bit more of longer games on the front end. But I think it's going to make for better long term improvements to the scene. I think this is something that 6 months down the road, people will be able to look back on and be, happy that they participated in something like this. Or you could be like EU and just show up in chat and say everything's shit. Either way, I don't care. I'm thinking that these players have an opportunity to display their skills on a very even spectrum, and the betters who do it, better for them. I guess I don't know. I don't know how to say it.
All right. I think we're probably pretty good to wind down and start shutting down their verdict. I know you're not feeling super great over there, so I don't want to. We're right at the hour mark as far as the stream running. I know there's like a 10-minute period at the beginning where we weren't. Um, we didn't
Yeah,
really
that
have.
that and the wife's like, "Hey, when are we gonna watch the rest of The Witcher?
Yeah.
Why are you not why are you not ready to come watch this with me? Come on."
All right. Yeah, we'll wind down there. I do think, and we're gonna put a tweet out for this, guys. I think I'm gonna give this one to Verdict. He wants some Twitter engagement.
Oh, this one's all you. This all you.
No, 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 no,
You
no, no. We
eat it up,
got you.
eat
We
it up.
got you. So we were kind of talking before today. Obviously, it's been a while since we had the spawn, and trying to figure out when we're gonna run it to be able to stay consistent has been a factor. I think we were mostly looking at Monday is probably the safest day to run it. And we can run it a little bit earlier in the day so that it's more available to both Europe and North America as well as even LATAM. And that's one of the biggest factors is that it doesn't interfere with the North American, European, or Latin American Mobile Mayhem days. So we're probably going to put a poll out on Twitter. Again, go follow Verdict on Twitter. I think you're getting close to 1,000.
We're literally right there at 1,000. We've been sitting at 1,000 on
Oh,
the
you did
outskirts
finally
for
cross
like
1,000.
no, we're at 18 away from 1,000. So
Oh, okay, yeah. Go follow Verdict. Get him to 1,000 followers on Twitter. He's going to be putting the poll out where we're going to run it and see what day works best for the people. Again, I think we're aiming for Monday just because it doesn't interfere with anything, which is nice because if we do it on a Tuesday or a Thursday, then me and
right
Verdict
then,
literally sit at our computer and cast all day long
yeah. As much
for.
as we like you guys, I also like doing other things too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. If we do it on Mobile Mayhem days, we start at 2 with Europe, and then we sit here and cast until midnight, 1 o'clock by the time the spawn's done. So, um, not not super into wanting to do that. But yeah, be on the lookout. Go follow Verdict on Twitter. It's at MSK Verdict. I will, of course, retweet it as well if that's easier for you to find. And I think that's where we're going to call it. We are going to get you guys a raid rolling, and I think we're going to hit up Gilmania, who is currently live with Zim doing the Mobile Mayhem Latin American broadcast. So it will be in Spanish, guys. So just kind of keep that in mind. But there's definitely some great talent from both LATAM and North America alike there. So make sure you guys go show Gilmania some love. Gil and Zim both speak English as well, obviously. So you guys will be able to hang out over there and have a good time. So thank you guys so much for coming by. And again, we'll be on the lookout for that tweet, and we'll see you next week.
Later, guys.